Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
Hey.
What up? Welcome to the show that is casual that happens on Fridays where we talk about tabletop role playing games. Me, I'm Jim. Over there, that's Brad, as it's always been just the two of us. There's no third host, despite what you saw in that opening graphic. My kid's teacher is emailing me. So we are going to talk about the news, things that are happening in the tabletop industry, and we're going to get to the robots taking over in just a minute. But first, hot on the heels of last week, Darrington Press announcing a new Daggerheart book. Did you know about that, Brad?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, new
Yeah.
Daggerheart book, Hope and Fear. Well, not to be outdone, the good folks at MCDM are releasing their first post-launch book, which is an adventure called Crack the Sun. It looks like it's going on Backer Kit Live on Monday, I would guess. Monday, December 8th, I think.
Cool.
Based on that, yeah.
Yeah. Even though I was not here the past 2 weeks, I tried to catch parts of the show, so I at least have an idea what you guys talked about. So.
So Crack the Sun is the first official epic campaign for Drawsteel. 5 acts. Each act is one whole level's worth of adventure, so 16 victories.
Cool.
I kinda know what that means.
The 16 victories part, that's like kind of their substitute for experience points. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, a victory can come from combat or a social encounter, but yeah, it is the goal of any encounter is to achieve a victory.
Gotcha.
And then the idea being, with the way that Drawsteel has, what's up, Nacho? The idea being that victories power you in combat. So that's how they have their extended adventuring day. Like unlike D&D where it's resource attrition.
That's right.
Throughout the day, yeah. Drawsteel, you get victories, and then victories allow you to do stuff. And the DM has something like that too, called Dread or Malice. I can't remember which one it's called, but the worse things go for the DM, the more of these points they get. So the example Matt Colville gave in a video was like, if there's one goblin left and he has 8 dread points, he's about to do something crazy. So he can still be tense. But yeah, that is Drawsteel, Crack the Sun. What were you going to say?
Cool. I remember now, back when I was following the initial development stuff, Matt talking about how he wanted a cost benefit kind of situation. So I'm guessing that's what turned into these victories. But the idea was originally, which I'm assuming is how it's implemented, is that you would be low on resources, your character resources. But if you had victories, you would get a different set of resources. So then the question is, do you push on because you have these victory resources, or do you rest and get back your character resources? As a way to kind of create some like dramatic decision points. I thought that was much better than the short rest, long rest.
It's clever.
Yeah.
It's clever. I like push your luck games. I wish 5e had more push your luck kind of stuff in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like this. I like the innovative rest stuff we're seeing in newer games. Like Daggerheart has a rest system I think is much improved over D&D, and Drawsteel's rest system is interesting because it incentivizes you to not rest.
Right.
Where there's nothing in D&D that would incentivize you to not rest. Everything is built toward the idea of if you don't rest, it's going to get bad.
Right. And that creates the coffee lock situation and just the player hesitancy that really stalls the story momentum when the players are always like, oh, we did 2 encounters, we need to rest. so then in D&D, the DM is having to create some sort of time pressure or scenario pressure that encourages the players to continue. So that's another example of how, D&D throughout its history has just put so much weight on the dungeon master, to control the pace of the game and the flow of the game, and the push your luck and the dramatic tension is all resting on the game master. There's not a whole lot of mechanics. The 5e death saving throws is like the closest we get, and that's that was new to 5e. So throughout the history of D&D, like I said, so much has been placed on the DM to drive the game forward.
Yeah, and what's nice about the way Daggerheart does it is that it's each side, the GM and the players, the PCs get a resource back at rest. So it's always a question of, is this worth it? If
Right.
we rest, the game master gets stronger.
Right. Yeah, because the game master gets more fear every time they rest. Right?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
game master gets fear back.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed that 4-session Daggerheart adventure you ran for us, which is up on the channel. You guys can watch it. Shameless plug.
Down around the thing, you'll find it probably in the videos off to the side over there. Probably one of those.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is the new Drawsteel book, and I haven't had time yet, full disclosure, I own the Drawsteel books, and I haven't fully looked through them. I just did a little skim. I am excited for that new Daggerheart book, though, because it solves one of my major complaints with the Daggerheart book was that it just didn't have enough stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
So Daggerheart, Hope, and Fear, they were like, here, it's a lot more of all the stuff.
Yeah.
And cool. I'm excited for that.
And it looks like Drawsteel's doing the same kind of thing with this new book that they're putting on BackerKit. So,
yeah.
More content, more better.
So our main topic, and I'm not going to click this video because every time I do, we get demonetized. In fact, I probably shouldn't show it up here too long, but I'll leave it up for a while so people know what we're talking about. Our friend Bob Worldbuilder released a video earlier this week talking about AI D&D. For a couple of years now, for over the last 2 years, AI has taken over the world. It went from pictures of people with too many fingers and toes to basically being indistinguishable, and it's now actively taking over, and a thing that people fight about tooth and nail on social media about generative AI, the pros and cons of it. And so Bob put out a video saying what it would actually look like. And Bob's prediction in this area, he says he thinks that D&D will first add a chat bot that you can go to for rules questions, D&D Beyond specifically, he said. Then the second step is that the chatbot will be able to build encounters for you. Mm-hmm. It will be able to suggest scenarios for you based on the data it already knows, like your character sheets and maybe notes you've put in a campaign journal on D&D Beyond and what you've put in maps. Like, it'll know all that, so it'll be able to suggest, hey, the next thing that could happen is this, because they're in the tundra. What if they go into an ice cave next?
Right.
And then the final step is that it becomes the dungeon master for you.
Right. Which I don't think anybody wants the dungeon master to be an AI. I don't know. Maybe some people do, but I think the majority of the fan base does not want AI dungeon masters. But all the rest of the stuff he suggested, makes sense. That would actually be helpful. And that's, and on this channel, we've taken a very firm stance against generative AI, I feel like, in our previous episodes. But my caveat has always been AI should be tools to help me do a better job. I don't want AI to replace my job. I don't want AI to, take away creatives' jobs. But if AI tools help us be more efficient to do the jobs we want to do, right? That's where I see AI is actually useful. But yeah, it's not going away. We're not going to stop it.
No, there's way too much money to be made in generative AI now.
Yeah.
That's clearly seen, and there's a bubble. There's a bubble like the .com bubble that burst in 99 or 2000, whenever it happened. That's going to happen, but websites didn't go away after the .com bubble burst, right?
Right.
So the bubble's going to burst, and people will lose a whole bunch of money. But generative AI is here to stay, and I think there are harmless uses of generative AI.
Hmm.
There, like my Wednesday D&D group, we play online, and a guy in the group is a real tech guy. He's real pro AI. I don't agree with him on that, but that's he's a cool guy anyway. And sometimes we'll be in the middle of a scene, and the dungeon master will be describing a cave we're in or something, and then he'll be like, "Does it look something like this?" Bam, and he'll post a JPEG into our Discord channel that it's like exactly what the dungeon master is describing, and we're like, "Oh, cool." And I think that use of generative AI is relatively harmless. I mean, you could argue about the water required to power the servers that took to make that JPEG, but that's relatively harmless because no one is losing their job because of that. No one is having their creative output taken away from them. But
Right.
in general, I'm opposed to generative AI because I believe that talent and effort should gatekeep quality.
Yeah.
I've seen posts on social media where people, or maybe it was bots, it could have been bots, said, that generative AI is great because it removes the gatekeepers to creation. And that's so ironic because the gatekeeper to creation they're talking about is the learning
Creativity.
required to be able to make the art.
Right. And
Like,
the creativity that comes from unique individuals.
yeah, what they're gatekeeping is trial and error, is learning from your mistakes, is getting better at something, is building a network, building a community of people who make the thing and are learning at the same time. Like that's why people all go to school at the same time and the same place to learn together, so that shouldn't be gate kept. Like the 10,000 hours required to attain mastery, it's not busy work.
Right. Exactly.
Um, that being said, the interesting thing I think about this is that Bob's proposed future where the they did have the art stolen, train the model. Indeed, um, if if D&D Beyond's customers are all players and the dungeon master is AI, they'll have to have a different financial model than they do now, because the D&D has always been, for the most part, the dungeon master buys all the crap.
Right.
The players may buy a player's handbook, but probably not. They're probably just going to reach over and pick up yours off the table, you know. And so they've built a model, and there's lots of things like this. There's lots of businesses that work on this model where one person buys the stuff, and then that enables multiple people to use it.
Right.
Right? Like that's how silverware works. You don't have to
Yeah.
buy separate silverware for each person who works in your house or who lives in your house, right?
Right.
So it's a very different model though, because if they're getting rid of the dungeon master, who's going to buy all the stuff?
Yeah. And in other industries, right? There's whales. You have your whale customers, right? And the dungeon master is kind of the whale of D&D. We are the ones, like, I mean, if I could swing my camera around, I could show you this room is full of miniatures and terrain and books, and
Nerd.
yeah, I'm a total geek. But and like you said, I think I have 2 players who bought their own player's handbook out of the last 5 years of gaming. Probably 20 different players have come and gone through my table, different collections of the same 20 people for 5-player to 7-player campaigns. And yeah, maybe 2 or 3 have bought a player's handbook.
Let me just say, Twin Steel. You see, that's the thing, is I'm not using silverware. I use platinumware now. I've reached a new level. My servants can use the silverware. That's fine.
uh,
Well, so do you think? Oh, we're going to talk about the wish list later. It's natural to want to transition right into that to what's coming next, but
one
I think so. Go ahead.
one point Bob makes, what I'm not sure I agree with, is he compares the AIDM to a personal chef, right? The idea that, you know, throughout history, we've had, you know, people play, he uses an example. Throughout history, we've had people play music. And then when the radio came out, we stopped, having friends over to play music in our house and started listening to professionals on the radio, right? Um, and, and he extrapolates that out to compare the AIDM to like the personal chef. Like there's personal chefs out there and there's restaurants out there. If you want a good meal, there's multiple, tiers of different expensive ways to get really nice food. But that has not stopped, 99.9% of the population from preparing their own meals. It's just how often do you eat out kind of a question. So, his point was that, that's not going to, AI features and AI tools and even AI DMs are not going to stop people, the majority of people from, running their own games of D&D.
Yeah, I didn't really follow his metaphor there with the personal chef. I think I kind of got lost when I was watching that.
But yeah, so I don't know. So I thought that was an interesting take. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see how good the AIDM is going to be.
Yeah, his first step, what he proposes where D&D Beyond adds a chat bot, he makes a really good point that would be useful because searching on D&D Beyond is not very good.
Yeah, it sucks. It searches the comments first.
Yeah. It searches wild things first, like I search just on Wednesday because my D&D group on Wednesday plays online, so I use D&D Beyond every Wednesday. And I was searching for the name of a spell. I know I spelled it correctly, and it didn't give me the definition of the spell until about 12 results down. First, it was like examples of that spell appearing in stat blocks in modules, and I was like, why would I want that? Why, right. If I'm searching for the spell, why do you think my first thing is I want to know when it came up in Tyranny of Dragons?
Right.
It's just ridiculous. But so a chat bot where I could just if we're sitting at the table and my phone's there and I can go, hey, D&D Beyond personal device, can we get a ruling on that last thing that just happened? That's amazing. That saves huge amounts of time. Because I game with nerds who like to argue about the rules, and oh boy, sometimes it takes way too long. That's one of the biggest problems, I think. One of the biggest slowdowns at the table is just arguing about rules. So if you could solve the rules, that would be great. But then the problem is at that point, we've already given the chatbot access to all our personal information.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, it's like, I think about that line from the only really good line from the Star Wars prequels. That's how what is that? That's how liberty dies, to thunderous applause instead of
right.
So like if you read the dystopian books, they don't know they're in a dystopia because it happens gradually, right?
Right.
That's how dystopias work. Everybody thinks it's great, or at least the people who in the middle and upper classes think it's great. But the problem there is like, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago, I got very sick of Gmail spying on me. And so I was like, I'm going to go remove all these Gmail products from my life. And then I realized I had sacrificed a whole lot of comfort by removing like Gmail's access to my stuff and removing, like hiding, making everything private and all that stuff. Now I couldn't access all the cool features anymore that required Gmail to know everything about me. So there's a trade-off there, right? That convenience of a chat bot will be nice, but it will lead to a virtual person being at your table all the time,
Hmm.
probably listening in and probably doing things with that information that you might not approve of it doing if you really knew what it was doing with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And those are more of the fears and concerns that, we've talked about those before, but yeah, that's the big question, is like, how much of your privacy and your identity do you give away for the sake of convenience, right? Um, Great to see Lunar Hound in the chat. If it's the same Lunar Hound I'm thinking of, he's one of my former players from way back in the day.
Nice.
But yeah, the limitations of AI, um, you know, at least the surface level limitations of AI, like how well it looks and how fast it works and how good of a product does it actually deliver, those seem to be dramatically improving. But we've yet to know the unintended consequences that all this is going to have, and how it's going to impact our society. Um, I have a particular opinion about hip hop music, and the way I feel like the quality of hip hop has, not completely, but to an extent, has degraded over the years, as at least in my impression, a lot of hip hop has become like copies of copies. With samplings and overdubs and remakes and remixes, and then with former musicians becoming producers. I feel like it's created a lot of sameness in hip hop. I don't know. You're a hip hop fan.
Yeah, I am.
Do you feel like modern hip hop has the same like breadth of creativity that it did in the 80s and 90s?
I agree with Twinsdale. We're shaking our fist at the clouds here. I don't listen to a whole lot of modern hip hop. I can't really comment on that.
Yeah, that's just my impression. And so whether my take on that is accurate or not, and whether I'm just being a boomer, but using that example though, like you were saying, is people get used to AI products, and that starts to water down our resourcefulness and creativity. Are we going to, as generations go on, our future generations going to lack the determination and creativity to make original content?
I don't know. Within the last month, I got into this new Apple TV show, Pluribus, the new show from the guy who made Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. And it's incredible. It's fantastic. Pluribus is absolutely amazing. It's incredible. And I was reading an interview. Vince Gilligan, the creator, was talking about Pluribus, and he said, the Marvel movies are great and the new Star Wars movies are great, but at some point, this generation is going to need their own Star Wars.
Right. Something that inspires them and represents them as a generation.
Something new, right? Something new, because is it like Plumbus? No, it's Pluribus on Apple TV, and it's fantastic. It's one of the best things I've seen in a long, long time. But the point is, AI can't make anything new. All it can do is synthesize and paraphrase existing ideas. So if we're fine as a society with just getting new Star Wars movies and just new Marvel movies and not having anything that's brand new that defines the generation,
Right.
I would hate for the thing that defined my generation to be a sequel to a movie. That's just so sad. That's very sad.
Yeah.
But I watched this video the other day on YouTube that was said that when they made Alien versus Predator, the Alien versus Predator made more money than all the Alien movies and all the Predator movies put together. And so that was the end of Hollywood. They were like, ooh, if we take these two IPs and smash them together, it equals cha-ching, more bucks. From then on, that was the end of Hollywood, because everything after that was IP. Only IP is the only thing Hollywood has cared about. So blame Alien versus Predator for destroying Hollywood.
We did say we weren't going to leave Bob on the screen for this long, so
Oops.
the yeah. Well, so what are the cultural touchstones of the past couple generations, right? Like, we grew up on Star Wars, Star Trek. You know, what is the property that represents, like, maybe Harry Potter for millennials? Is that?
I think it's different now because because of the democratization of media, because of YouTube, and because television shows are as good as any movie now, that when people look to the defining thing, they think about the last 50 years, it's been movies, right?
Right.
And it's sometimes been books that led to movies, like Hunger Games, like Harry Potter.
Right. So maybe Stranger Things?
Yeah, in a
Game of
way.
Thrones? Like, those are two TV shows that were real touchstones for, over the last 10 years, right?
Indeed. Have you seen any of the new season?
Of Stranger Things? Yeah. I
Yeah.
started it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 4 episodes. No D&D yet, but they've referenced it in basically every episode so far.
Yeah, with like using the miniatures and all that sort of stuff. They've not said the phrase Dungeons and Dragons or D&D, but yeah.
And there was some online debate about I don't remember that Mike. He was talking to, I don't even remember which character, the one he gave the mini to. He's talking at the character and he's saying, she's a cleric and she can cast Dimension Door. And I saw a lot of people getting upset about that online. Like, they mention DVD, they mention D&D on like the biggest TV show in the world. Take it as a win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skibbity Toilet is cool, Twin Steel. You're right. So let's move on. I think we're probably going to talk a little bit more about AI pretty soon, but that's not the only thing that's happening. Recently, they just announced Eberron Forge of the Artificer, not recently announced, but it's coming out quite soon. We've been getting some first impressions of it, and so far I'm hearing that it's pretty good.
Mhm.
And what I'm also hearing is that this says it's a new kind of product. This is from EN World. New kind of product for Wizards of the Coast, an expansion to an existing Dungeons and Dragons rulebook, which is interesting because like that was TSR's bread and butter, creating campaign worlds and then making rulebooks for them. And ultimately, one of the things that became their undoing,
right,
was fragmented product lines. But everyone's surprised. They're like, they're making a sequel book. That's weird. And it's like, that's what all the books used to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In the late 80s, early 90s, it was all about the campaign setting and all the different sequel books that you could get out of that campaign setting. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It did fracture the hobby because like my group chose, back in like, 88, 89, we chose Dragonlance. I've said this before on the show. And once we had all the Dragonlance books, that gave us years worth of game content. Like we didn't blink at Dark Sun or Birthright or any of the other campaign settings because we were locked into Dragonlance once we had more than enough content than we could run.
Right. And then at that point you have so much content that there's a high cost of switching to anything else, right? Because then if you go get one Ravenloft book, then you're like, okay, I guess we could play Ravenloft for 2 months, but we have to buy a whole bunch more books if we want to do a big world, right?
Right, exactly. So interesting that they're expanding Eberron. You asked this question offline before we started: is how much was Keith Baker involved in this? Is he just getting royalties because they're using his IP, or did the very fact that he won that contest forfeit all that for him? Is that because, as you pointed out, right, that he said a while ago that he was going to stop making Eberron content for DM's Guild because it wasn't profitable for him anymore.
Yeah, and also recently, Ed Greenwood announced that he's putting out 4 Forgotten Realms books in 2026 on the DMs Guild. So it appears to be, I don't know if Ed Greenwood just has a much smaller overhead. I don't know if he's just a team of one, so he's just putting out books, and Keith Baker probably had a whole team they had to pay.
Hmm.
I don't know. Um, uh,
Yeah, and when you asked that question offline, I tried to do some quick digging to see, how much Keith Baker was involved in this new Eberron book, and I couldn't find anything that would suggest that he has. His last blog entry was from like October 30th, and it had nothing to do with um, this Eberron book.
let me see. Can you buy this already? Forge of the Artificer. Uh, it's only 112 pages.
Hmm.
Publisher Wizards of the Coast. It doesn't list the author there. It doesn't say the author.
That's interesting.
I can't, if it is, let me just do a little Control F here for Keith or Baker. Negative, not mentioned on the page.
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious, but as far as Eberron as a setting, I know, I know you've expressed your biggest barrier to Eberron is that there's too many houses, um, and I don't disagree with that. Uh, I, I Eberron is a setting that I would love to play in, but I have no interest in DMing because I don't want to learn everything about Eberron because it's cool that it's such a rich, like broad, you know, world. There's a lot of cool content there, but I've never been that interested in learning someone else's content in order to run the game. That's why I build my own homebrew worlds. But I would absolutely love to be a player in an Eberron game. I'm just never going to DM it myself for that reason.
Yeah, I like reading about other worlds, and I've run in Forgotten Realms quite a bit, and I just like to. At first, I think I was concerned that if I didn't know everything, I wouldn't be able to run it very well.
Hmm.
As someone who grew up kind of homebrew worlds, running Sword Coast Forgotten Realms in 5e, I was like, well, I kind of have to know a lot of crap, right? And then I was like, oh no, I'll just read some stuff, and then if I don't know, I'll just make it up.
Yeah,
The Forge of the Artificer. Go ahead.
Lunar Hound makes a makes a funny comment. I called it rich. Eberron is rich. He says that's one way of putting it. I've heard people use the word messy.
Mm. Well, Forge of the Artificer comes with 5 subclasses. The Cartographer, 4 reimagined and 1 new. So it doesn't say what the reimagined ones are, but you get the Cartographer, which we saw in UA. 5 revised species, 17 new backgrounds, and 28 feats. Which I hope some of those are origin feats because there's not a lot of origin feats.
Mm-hmm.
Because my Wednesday D&D group, we just started a new campaign and we're fully 2024 rules. We're not doing this hybrid thing because our last campaign was 4 years, so it happened we had to do a hybrid kind of thing, but we're fully 5.5, and I'm re-familiarizing myself with all the rules. A new spell, Bastions, 3 campaign frameworks, which I guess they're just straight up doing campaign frames now.
Interesting. You started to cough, so I was just going to jump in. But did you want to go ahead and finish the list that you're reading?
Sure. 20 plus new monsters. The 3 frameworks are Noir, Sky High Pulp, and Political Peril.
Okay. That's cool. So they're calling them frameworks instead of campaign frames.
Yeah.
But hijacking the idea from Daggerheart. So the one thing I think more campaign settings should do is what they did in Ravnica. Ravnica is similar to Eberron in the sense of it's it's very Arcana punk influenced, and Ravnica has 10 guilds, where like Eberron has the Dragonmark houses. But one of the things that the Ravnica book does well is it gives you like encounter generators for each of the 10 guilds. So you could plan a whole adventure, like 2 or 3 levels worth of content, by using these encounter generators that are built into each of the guilds. So you can effectively pick one guild as DM and then use whatever guilds your players pick, right? So say you have 4 players, each of them, so let's say they each have a different guild that they're a part of, and then you pick one other guild as the DM to be your bad guys, right? And then you take that campaign generator and you roll, guild number 1 against guild number 2, guild number 1 against guild number 3, guild number 1 against, so forth and so on. Combining the campaign or the encounter generators from the 5 different guilds that you have at the table. And that, I think, is actually a very efficient way to be able to create an adventure path in somebody else's world. Of course, Mr. Welsh makes the point of, like, if they go anywhere else in the world that you're not prepared for, just have it recently destroyed by orcs.
Yeah, there you go. That's smart. Oh, that town, yeah, that's not there anymore. So sorry. Dwarfton always lamenting about how people won't run Forgotten Realms for him.
Right. Because he knows too much about the setting.
He knows too much about it. Okay, I think we can move on from Eberron. I don't know a whole lot more about it. The release was delayed. Now it's launching on Tuesday, December 9th. Oh, Hero Tier subscribers. Oh, I could buy it. Nacho, do you own it? Can you share it with us? Yeah, I don't really feel like probably not going to buy this one.
No, I'm not either. I mean, I'm not even running 24 D&D 24, D&D 5.5, whatever the hell we're calling it. I'm still running Shadowdark right now and playing Vampire the Masquerade. Yeah,
nice. Okay, so moving on. Speaking of things that are cool that I'm probably not going to buy, from the website Rati Incantati, yeah, RATTI, and then another word Incantati, which I'm sure that means something cool, but I just got to say, horrible website name, bro. Just terrible. No one's ever going to remember that. If you want them to type it, it's bad. You should know. Pick something different before you take off. For Morkborg is the Arcane Catastrophes, which is a sort of deck of many things for Morkborg, but Morkborg specific. It is, in the beginning of Morkborg, there are 66 catastrophes. Mm-hmm. And I think when you roll the 7th one, then the game is over because the world ends?
Right.
Is that how it works?
I believe so. I've never run Morkborg, but I took that catastrophes concept and I used their catastrophe tables in a in a 5e game that I ran, because my players were talking about Dark Souls and decided they wanted a grim dark campaign. So I stole the catastrophes from Morkborg and slapped them on top of 5e, and it was pretty cool. Unfortunately, that campaign got derailed because somebody had a baby and somebody moved away and so forth and so on. Yeah.
So the Arcane Catastrophe says 52 standard playing cards, each containing a wild, possibly game-breaking, and certainly character-melting magical disaster. Now it
Yeah.
doesn't list any of them, but we can zoom in and get a little. Here's one. Several realities converge, crashing into a point centered on your body and warping you into an alternate version of yourself, perhaps one better at reading scrolls. Reroll your stats, equipment, and class abilities if applicable. Oof. Or like with a concerning pop, your body contracts and condenses to a quarter of its current size. You can squeeze into spaces previously impossible, but your agility reduces by 4 due to your cumbersome density. None of your clothing or gear fits anymore, but your turgid body has D6 natural armor and plus 5 HP. Or, let's see this one. A vile creature of sniveling malice born in heaven's outhouse now resides in your ass. Anytime you fail an attack roll, the creature emerges to stab at you with a wicked pitchfork and does a d4 damage.
Yikes.
This part's hard to read. You may automatically pass the something roll if you harass the creature with an insult it's never heard before. That's fantastic.
Yeah, those are cool. And those actually seem more like spell failures than like the catastrophes, because the catastrophes, I know these are called arcane catastrophes, but this seems more like spell failures. Like the narrative world affecting catastrophes are quite larger from what I remember. Like I know when I was using it, that like an entire city got destroyed.
Twin Steel, were you a big fan of the word turgid before? Here's one. Your body sloughs away from the neck down, replaced by the irritated flesh of a giant seagull. Although you no longer enjoy the use of your hands, you can fly long distances and eat previously inedible materials. This would be great for any game. I mean, the stats won't apply in D&D or Daggerheart or Draw Steel, but these sound like some pretty fun things to do. It's like the Deck of Many Things, except they're all horrible.
Yeah, and you could, even if you didn't want, like if you're playing 5e, for example, that doesn't have like spell failure, right? You know, these would be fun to just put in a dungeon. Like,
Yep.
Like imagine, a dungeon where 2 wizards had a duel and left like this, like sickening residual arcane magic just lying around, where like, every time a wizard was injured, like there's just like some sort of sludge on the floor, or like a spell had exploded or whatever. And so as the players are exploring, instead of traps, you have these residual spell effects that are just kind of oozing here and there throughout this like wizard tower or whatever. And so, you'd have to draw from the deck whenever you stumbled upon one of these like arcane irradiated parts of the dungeon.
I'm definitely stealing the ass demon. He is going into a campaign like, if you go into the forest, you be careful. That's where the ass demon lives. He's always looking for a new host. And so I believe that brings us to the midpoint of the show, although I do need to kind of keep it closer to an hour today. Before we catch up, you got anything you want to talk about, Brad?
I have not done anything cool in the RPG sphere for the last 2 weeks because I was on vacation. But I had an amazing vacation with my kids and my wife and my closest friend.
Nice. My Wednesday group just started playing Curse of Strahd. I've held off reading it for the entire time. I own it. It's right back there. It's one of those books right there. I own it. The spine has never been cracked. I've tried 2 or 3 times, I'm not sure, before to play it. Once we played through Death House. Once we made it like 3 or 4 sessions in. We got as far as we went to some orphanage, and I convinced the guy who ran the orphanage to put on a talent show with the kids, and then after that the group fell apart. But I'm excited because my character is a spy, so I have 2 backstories I have to remember. It's been tricky keeping them straight, but like I have a secret mission. I went full Andor. I was like, I want to have, telling my DM, I'm like, I want to have code phrases and passwords and secret hand symbols. I'm like,
That
And
sounds
he's
awesome.
super excited about all that, you know. He's very into it. He says it's going to fit perfectly with the story. So
That sounds cool.
my thing is that I'm pretending to be just a regular uh, cleric of Tyr, but secretly I'm a spy working for the Harpers. And our mission is that we've heard that Strahd has magical artifacts that make him too powerful. So as the Harpers, you know, we're invested in balance because the Harpers are like the Jedi Council of the Forgotten Realms.
Right.
I need to seek him out and confiscate those magical items so that they can be safely stored in Harper vaults for all of eternity, where no one can access them.
Sounds like a cool campaign.
I'm excited for it.
I love it when players come up with ideas for for a character, and they're coming up with it totally out of the blue, and but it fits perfectly with the campaign setting you've decided on or the villain you've chosen. I love when that happens. Like I recently played a like a one shot of Shadow Dark, and the main bad guy was an artificer. And jokingly, one of my players, when I asked, what kind of character do you want for this one shot, and she said artificer as a joke, knowing that there was no artificer class in Shadow Dark. But she ended up making a rogue and I made up an artificer background for her thief, I think it's called in Shadow Dark. And so her background fit perfectly with the villain that I had planned, because I had planned the villain to be an artificer. So I love it when stuff like that happens. When, like the game where I had Vecna, the hand of Vecna was like the MacGuffin for the game, and one of the players wanted to play a Hexblade and asked if his Hexblade could be the Sword of Khass. Like that's perfect.
Cool.
So I love it when that kind of thing you just described happens, where a player comes up with an idea and it fits perfectly with what you already had in mind.
Yeah. Me and this DM work well together. I mean, I've DM'd myself for many, many years, so I know I know that the DM, when he says send me your backstories and they can be any length, he doesn't really mean that. He doesn't really mean, because if you send me 10 pages of backstory, it better be Cormac McCarthy level prose in there, or I'm not making it past the first page.
No.
It belongs in a museum. Yeah, that's kind of my character's. I'm not playing an Indiana Jones type, but yeah, that's his philosophy for sure. Like, those powerful artifacts shouldn't be in the hands of anyone, even the people who are good. They should be hidden away where no one can abuse them. But nobody else in the group knows that, so I'm playing my character like a camp count, like a Christian youth leader, like trying to convert everyone to Tyr. But they'll figure it out soon enough. I'm gonna start doing real suspicious things in the game to give it away.
So you're super motivated, super positive, and a whole lot of silly.
Yeah,
That's what I conjure up in my head when you say youth leader.
well, he's just kind of like big energy and like like the other, if we're all introducing ourselves, that other player is describing he's a Githzerai druid who's an atheist. And it's like, and I said, as soon as you say atheist, you see my character sliding a book back inside his cloak. It's like I'm trying to convert everybody. That was fun. So moving on to our roundtable discussions, we're going to talk a little bit more about AI. Brad put forth the idea that we could talk about what's on our D&D AI wish list.
Yeah. So
you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna kind of dovetail off of what we were saying earlier about AI. We pretty much as a channel are not proponents or really excited or are really against. We're really against generative AI for the most part, I think. But as we said before, like it's not going anywhere. It's coming. So we'll put all the controversial, like all that stuff aside and just have some fun with this idea of a wish list. If it is coming, what actually do you want it to do? So I liked Bob's suggestion of the chatbot search engine, because like what we said before, D&D Beyond sucks when it comes to its search engine. And now that you have the 2024 version out, it's harder to find things on Google, because when you pull it up, the Google search results are mostly the 2014 version, because that's what's been searched the most for the past 10 years.
Right.
So you have to be, when you use Google to find your answers, you have to be careful if you're actually getting the 2024 answer or the 2014 answer. So a good chatbot search engine, I think, would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to talk here because everything is such a slippery slope with this stuff, because there's so much money to be made from it.
Yeah.
And anytime, I hate to go Brendan Lee Mulligan here, but anytime capitalism gets involved, it ruins everything. And I think but if the robot invasion is inevitable, which it probably is, then I'm gonna get my kicks in before the whole shithouse goes up in flames. Not really. I don't know why I said that. That was a quote from a movie. But
I felt
what? Do you know what that's from, Brad? Do you know what that is? Do you know what quote that is?
I don't know where that's from, but I felt it. I like that. Like it that feels real. Like I didn't.
That was allegedly Jim Morrison said that. It was from The Doors.
Okay, cool.
What was I saying? So there are some positive benefits we can take from it. Like generative AI is going to put artists out of work. But it will be cool to be able to generate, images instantly in Discord group chats, like I talked about 30 minutes ago. In our Wednesday group, we took a vote about recording our sessions to use that AI summarizing thing. I voted no. I was outvoted. We're using the AI summarizing thing, so we're recording. All of our sessions are recorded, immediately uploaded to this thing, and then about 5 minutes after the session is done, can go read a full session recap with generated images and everything about everything that happened in the session, which is very cool. I don't think that's not taking someone's job away directly.
Yeah, no one was getting paid to take notes for your campaign.
Right. But then I think about stuff like, okay, so generative AI could be useful in a situation like that, where somebody wants to generate an image of their character. You can go on Hero Forge and make something with the same species and gear that looks kind of similar, but in generative, like in Gemini or ChatGPT, you could actually make something that looks exactly like what you want, probably after a few misfires and several gallons of water wasted at the at the AI facility to make your little character, you selfish prick. I got lost there. I forgot the original point I was trying to make. Oh no, I remember. So what the next step, as Bob describes it, as to where it can make encounters for you and scenarios for you. The scenario I could see being really useful is where you go into D&D Beyond maps and you're like, people are walking through a jungle and you rolled some random encounter dice and now you're fighting tree blights. Well, I don't have a jungle map. I don't have tree blight tokens. I guess we're going to have to pause for 15 minutes while I go search Google, find the right map, find the right tokens. Or if you could go into D&D Beyond Maps and go, hey, D&D Beyond, make me a jungle map and give me a bunch of tree blight tokens, and it takes 10 seconds, that would be awesome if I could just have a battle map immediately for what I wanted. And you could say that's not directly taking away someone's job either.
Right.
But the fact that exists means a lot less people are going to join Chepeku's Patreon.
Right.
And Chepeku's Patreon is amazing. I don't really use a lot of their maps, but I give them my money every month because they're awesome.
Yeah.
And I just like to look at their maps. They're so pretty. But yeah, so Chepeku was going to lose money because of that.
Right. And well, And here's a way you could do it more ethically, right? Is so you take all of the D&D maps that are already made across all the different books, and you use your chatbot to quickly search those maps and pull up existing maps that were made by artists over the last, 50 years of D&D. Right? So you would just be using existing maps that were actually made by real artists. You would just be using a chatbot to find them quickly and put them into your virtual tabletop. Like that would be a way to do it ethically. And so, and that would still accomplish exactly what you're asking for, is an efficient way for me to literally put the encounter in front of my players in a matter of a minute or two.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what I want for my D&D AI wish list is things that will not. I want features that make the game easier, don't cost people jobs, that don't
Right.
take away jobs, don't take away the livelihood of creators in this space. Any creator,
Right.
regardless of what it is, any kind of creator. I don't want their livelihood taken away. If making the game easier takes away segments of this industry, this burgeoning industry, if it kills segments of this industry, I don't want it at all.
Right. And there's ways to do that. Like we can just brainstorm that for a minute. Like you take like Kelsey and Shadow Dark and all of her random encounter tables, right? Or Ryan, who used to be on the show just last week. Ryan has his random encounter tables in his book of explosive creation, right? You could take content like that and actually pay for it. Pay somebody like Ryan or Kelsey to, somebody with that kind of talent that can generate a whole bunch of random encounter tables. So you're actually paying a creator to do the job, but then you take all that content and you put it into your AI chatbot just to make it efficient, right? So the AI is not generating its own content and taking away jobs, right? But it's using creator content in just an efficient way to put it in front of your players.
Indeed. Is there anything else aside from a good chatbot that you would want out of a D&D Beyond AI system? If it's something, imagine something you're going to be paying for, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think like an actually well-designed encounter builder. That's one of the suggestions Bob made. Where because you're on D&D Beyond knows everything, character sheet wise about the player characters. So like knowing which magic items they have and, what spells they have, and drawing from that information that's on those character sheets and, building encounters that would be more accurate to the level and to the equipment and magic items that your players have. Like that would actually be useful.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's pretty mind blowing to consider. Because the D&D encounters are based on the idea of a party of 4 players or 4 PCs, and based on having a certain number of magic items per tier,
right?
And this sort of thing. But it doesn't know how many spell slots the wizard has used, and it doesn't know how many rages the barbarian has left.
Right.
But an AI encounter builder, as long as everyone had D&D Beyond character sheets, as long as somebody's not using paper or using Roll20 or something, or a demiplane or something like that,
yeah,
it could look at those character sheets and in an instant know this is the perfect level of balance for exactly where the party is right now.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be super useful, right? I mean, for those DMs who want every encounter to be balanced. I know, there's other DMs like myself and Ryan who don't give a shit about balance. But but a lot of people do. A lot of people really care about that balance, which I still say is an artifact of 3rd edition. I think third edition did a lot of good things for the hobby, but it also damaged the hobby in certain ways. Creating the game, the character builder game within the game, and making encounter balance ridiculously important. But yeah, I think that would be a good solution. Other things I could think of that I could see AI doing, generating NPCs, not just randomly generating NPCs, but if you were using the Note Taker app, right? Like you were just talking about. So now the Note Taker app has everything that's already happened in the campaign so far, and the regions of your world that you have visited, right? And assuming that you've given the AI the list of important places in your campaign setting, then it would generate NPCs that actually help you show, not tell, about your campaign world. So instead of just generic Joe the blacksmith, who's a half orc, you get, this elaborate NPC who actually, is flavored to your campaign setting and to the events that have already happened in your game, because the AI knows the events that happened in your game because you're using the Note Taker.
True. That I do like that, and I think maybe with that we're maybe encroaching on the territory of how talent and effort should gatekeep quality. Because I think it would be cool if I could say, hey, D&D Beyond personal assistant, next week my party is going to be in the desert, and they just spotted a little desert town. So the genre is pulp and espionage. So what are some good NPCs who would be in that town?
Oh yeah,
so that would be cool. But also at that point, then you're sort of robbing yourself of knowing how to create NPCs based on a genre, right?
That's true, right?
Because if you got a desert town and you want to have a shady guy there, what do you need to do? You need to go watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, steal a couple of those NPCs, and just drop them in that town. That's what you do.
Right.
Yeah. And because then you watch the movie, you learn how the story goes, and you learn, I like that character. Let's see what that character does against my players next week.
Yeah.
There's a line with all of it, right?
Yeah. I literally did that not long ago. I was prepping for a Cyberpunk campaign, and I wanted to create a couple scenes in the particular corner of the city that I was doing this one shot in. And I went and watched the scenes with the what was his name? The Merovingian in Matrix 2 and Matrix 3. I went back and watched those scenes to help me come up with creative NPCs. So I pause it and look at the different extras in the background, and you kind of imagine what their weird outfit meant to them, and that helped me spawn some NPCs for that one shot, right?
That was really the only scene I liked in Matrix 2. It was so weird. I was like, this is weird. Why is it here? I love it. But the rest of that movie, Matrix 3, horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, the Merovingian was the only cool character that was added to Matrix 2 and Matrix 3.
Plus, also, what's her face? His date, the Merovingian's date, was her name?
Oh, yeah. I forget her name, but yes. Yeah, she definitely made those scenes. Those two characters played off of each other very well.
She was in Children of Men. I'm thinking Isabella Rossellini, but that's not who it is. But now Isabella Rossellini is stuck in my head. Anyway, okay, it's not going to come to me.
But yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that goes back to our conversation about the flaw in all this is how is AI going to undermine the creative process, right? And that was my whole point about my not so eloquently put comparison to modern hip hop music, where I feel like modern hip hop has drastically watered down from the hip hop that we had in the 80s and 90s. And I think it's largely because the people, the creative people at the top, are those artists from the 80s and 90s who now become producers, right?
Mm.
So you're not getting a lot of new infusion of creatives because like the genre has kind of become controlled by those people who became popular back then and are now running the show.
Why do haters say that Gambino got that game? I don't know. Childish Gambino is out there making hits. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Everything he does is gold. And Kendrick Lamar, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
He's fine.
I
get why people like
that.
him, but not for me.
I would put Kendrick at the top of the list of good creative hip hop artists. But the question is, like, is that really a high bar? Is like if Kendrick's like number 2 or number 3 on the list, is the bar for good hip hop very high?
Shots fired from Wolf.
Uh,
Wolf calling out Kendrick on the show. He's gonna be writing raps about you like Drake.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Do it, Kendrick. Let's do it.
Yeah. Shots fired. Let's go.
I think we've run out of interesting things to talk about, so we should probably wrap this up. We don't have to go 90 minutes. We can wrap it up here. So this has been our little conversation about AI and other news of the week, including Drawsteel and new Eberron and Workborg stuff. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And, we'll say goodbye. And I'm going to hit the button now. Any last words, Brad?
Cheers. Have a great weekend, everybody.
There you go. See ya.